Go. Oh.
What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome to a very special Volleyball Source live stream video. I'm excited to do this and to tie a bow on the 2023 Women's Volleyball Nations League. My name is Rob St. Clair. That is Everett Delorme. We are your volleyball professors of the day, and we are handing out some letter grades.
Professors.
That's right. We
Okay,
are the professors. And what
professors.
professors do is they hand out grades, and I'm excited for this. We're going to go through the 16 women's VNL teams. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about their VNL performances now that the trophy's been handed out, and we're going to give our letter grades. We're going to slap a letter grade label onto the entire VNL tournament for each team, and I'm very curious to see how you and I kind of approach this.
Yeah, I'm that thing that I'm interested to see, like because for me, I did it very much in a sense of it was a team per team basis. So some teams who finished higher in the tournament are getting worse letter grades because I expect more out of them, type of thing.
That's how I'm doing it too. My benchmark, like we're going obviously A, B, C, D, and F, and including pluses and minuses if you want to. But and C is average. C is average. C I think is like meets the expectations that were set for that, like we kind of thought for your team heading into the tournament. Anything above that is exceeding expectations. Anything below that is not meeting expectations. I think that at least is how I approached it, because I like. There aren't going to be that many teams that get anything in the A range. They're going to be very, very few. Because like C is because like C is average. If you met expectations, you're going to get something in the C range.
Yeah. See, I think I met my meet expectations in like the B-ish range.
Okay.
I think that shows us a lot. Like I was like a typical BA student. You must have been a little bit lower, so like C is acceptable for you, I guess. I guess. So,
let me tell you, when you get 2 engineering degrees, you are stoked out of your mind about 50% on an exam. That's how hard. That's how hard my academic career was. So
you know how many degrees I have?
How many? Hell yeah.
0. Exactly. So I'm way more. So it sounds like I might be a little bit more generous than you in this.
I am planning on not being particularly generous. I'm not going to be particularly generous in this video, and I'm kind of excited for that. Okay. So, without further ado, you want to kind of get into this thing. We're going to go down them alphabetically. We're going to talk about each team, how their VNL went, and then you and I are each going to give our letter grades separately. Here is the list. As you may notice, we already have a grade handed out. Then we're not even going to really talk about that team because it's very obvious that Korea is receiving an F- from both of us for being the most embarrassing program in the tournament for the second year in a row. But I think we should start Everett with a program that is not embarrassing, but certainly bears a certain level of expectation, and a team that we should definitely talk about, and that is Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil, 8-4.
I want you to kick this. I want you to kick this off.
Okay.
With giving your grade there, because I want to see where you're, where you're ranking all this stuff. I want to see where your barometer is compared to mine.
Okay, yeah, and this is a great one to start off because I think it's one of the most interesting. It's one of the most 100%. Interesting teams in the world. It's one of the most interesting teams in terms of expectation and how they performed and how their playoff went. And so, first of all, Brazil, I have everything broken down by their record each week in the preliminary round, where they finished in the preliminary round, then if they went to the playoffs, what happened in the playoffs. So we all know by now, Brazil made the playoffs. They're Brazil. Of course, they're going to do that, but they got pretty cleanly slapped in the quarterfinal by China and finished, I guess, tied for 5th. Don't know exactly where the final breakdown stands, but Brazil, man, I don't know about this one. They had definitely some question marks in their roster. They didn't get Gabi Guimarães until later in the tournament, and then they had to deal with Ana Cristina's injury. But other than that, they kind of had everyone for the most part that we expected. They ended up with huge question marks at opposite. They have huge question marks at second outside hitter without Ana Cristina. It turns out they have huge question marks at setter. Both Macris and Roberta did not have good tournaments. I thought that Macris was a lock. It should be one of the best setters in the world, but she did not have a good tournament at all. And I think our friend Peter from Poland, she did make you look bad. And I think a comment in the chat that is a good one. Brazil had better results than their level of play. And that's kind of
Absolutely.
something I want to talk about here too. Is like, sure, okay, you see 8-4. 8-4 is a decent finish. They finished fifth in the preliminary round. They made the playoffs, then lost to the team that ended up winning silver. Like, if you only look at it that way, it doesn't seem very bad. It seems like a perfectly respectable Brazil tournament. But I think the level of play wasn't very good at all by Brazil's standards. Do you think that's fair?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The level of play was nowhere near Brazil standards, and that's what we saw them lose to China in that final round. I mean, I think they got lucky throughout throughout the weeks, and I think the fact that they brought in Gabi, which is technically their worst week, is very interesting. So let's where's your ranking on this? Because if we break each of these teams down extensively, this is going to be like a 3-hour video.
Yeah.
So what's your ranking on it? Hit me with a ranking.
I'm hitting Brazil with a B minus. I'm hitting Brazil with a B minus grade. I mean, it's the record was okay. They made the playoffs as we all expected them to do, but I think the level of volleyball and then now the question marks that come out of it, it like barely exceeds or like barely meets expectations to me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. It's a little bit disappointing. Brazil is Brazil, and we have high expectations. They were missing a few players, and they do have kind of some question marks within the roster. But for me, Brazil is also a B minus.
Okay.
Yeah. So that makes me feel good. I'm guessing we're not too far off.
Okay.
On that one. All right. Let's just jump in right to the next one. Bulgaria, and I mean for me, Bulgaria, just the fact that they didn't get relegated is a plus for Bulgaria, right?
Totally agree.
They didn't have Vasileva / Antanasievich, however we want to call her, depending on her last name. And, she's definitely their best player. They got 2 wins, one against Croatia in the first game of the VNL, and
which was enormous. That was
enormous. That saved their tournament right.
Right.
That's their tournament right there. And I think Jordanova was actually like was a bright spot for Bulgaria and kind of put her name out there. But ultimately, you survived relegation, but you were dog shit other than that. So I gave them a D plus.
Okay. Okay, let me punch that in. D plus for Bulgaria. I bounced back and forth on this, but ultimately because their expectations were so low, surviving relegation is about the best that we could have asked for from Bulgaria. I'm going with C minus. Bulgaria is bad. Bulgaria without their best players, just a bad volleyball team. But they got the 2 wins that they needed to get, and they're gonna play VNL again next year, and we'll see what happens. So, based on the expectations being so low, I don't think I can give them anything lower than a C minus.
Okay, fair enough. Well, so far it looks like I'm a little bit tougher on these teams.
I'm very curious to see how you evaluate this next one. Let's talk about Canada. Canada finished 6-6, just barely missed the playoffs at 10th, 3-1 in week 3, played their best volleyball there, but a couple really bad losses. The loss to Thailand was brutal. And then 1-3 in week 2 was not the performance that you needed there. You go ahead to take the wheel here to talk about the Maple Volleys.
Well, as you mentioned, a couple bad losses. The one against Thailand is absolutely brutal, handing them one of their 2 losses. The other one that was a little bit frustrating for me was the one against the Dominican Republic, but that is a little more understandable. It was a 5-set match. It's a regional power, and Dominican Republic is ranked higher than us. But on the other side, like, this was a fantastic tournament for Canada in a lot of ways. You beat Serbia. And you beat Brazil for the first time in program history. You improved your ranking, and we improved our result from last year. Last year we finished 4-8. This year 6-6. So a much better result for Team Canada. And had we taken care of business against the team we should have, like, we would have been in the finals, which would have been awesome. So ultimately, because of those two losses and those 2 wins, I'm giving Canada B plus. It would have been a little bit higher, maybe an A minus had we made it to the finals. But I think a B plus is a good place where we exceeded expectations a little bit, but there's still a little bit on the table.
Yeah, I actually have the exact same thing. This is man, I thought that we were going to be way more all over the place with these grades, but I had the exact same thing. Had Canada made the playoffs, it would have been an A for sure. But they
Yeah.
definitely exceeded expectations. They showed a lot of improvement compared to last year. They're continuing to get better, and if they now reach that level of consistency that we've talked about and start to really take care of the teams that they should beat, and have there be no doubt about beating a team like Thailand, then that'll continue to bump them up. But this was a good tournament for Canada. The Brazil win in week 3 was enormous,
Massive.
absolutely
Yeah.
huge.
I think if Jen Cross doesn't get injured on the eve, basically, of VNL, we take care of business against Thailand in week 1 there, and then also too with everything going on in the personal life of Kira Van Ryk, it would have been a little better result. But you know what?
Totally fair.
Happy with it all. B plus for my my Lady Maple volleys.
All right, moving on to China, the silver medalists, undefeated week 1, dropped a couple games after that, finished 4th, but then, of course, as we just saw last week, they beat Brazil, then they beat Poland in a very convincing 3-dong before losing to Turkey in the gold medal match. Silver medal for China that nobody really saw coming, and some very, very good, really rock steady, clean volleyball along the way. What do you think about the Chinese women, Everett?
I was really impressed by the Chinese women. I was not too high on them coming into this entire VNL. Like even going so far to say that I thought Canada should beat them. And I didn't necessarily think that they were going to be a playoff team. They proved me wrong clearly, and then proved the entire world wrong by making it that finals. I think that this is a very, very good Chinese team. They're going to put you in tough situations, and they're going to just outplay you in a lot of ways. They're not overloaded with talent, but everyone is solid. Li Yingying is a legitimate force at all times. So for me, I give China an A minus. I think they deserve to be in that upper tier. It was a great run to the finals, and they just lost a bit of steam there.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them just a straight up A.
Okay.
I'm giving China just a straight up A, just because outperforming expectations. I thought that the playoffs, just like making the round of 8, was the ceiling for this Chinese team, and they bursted through that ceiling in a big way. I'm looking back through the preliminary round, so their 4 losses. One was to Poland, one was to Italy's B team in 5, which is a loss that I don't love. One was to Serbia with Bošković, and then one was to the Dominican Republic, which I also don't love. But once they got to the playoffs, they cleanly beat Brazil. They played the best match of the tournament in the semifinal, like by far the highest level they played the entire tournament in the semifinal against Poland, destroyed a good Polish team. And then they came up short to a Turkish team in the final that was better than them. And I think just I had absolutely no idea that this Chinese team could medal, and they did. So they're way above expectation for me, and they get an A. They get a rock solid A.
Nice. So like ultimately, Rob, we're not too far off this
No,
from each other here. Like so far, we're doing pretty good.
well, we've got some teams that are starting to. This is actually the alphabetical order here is kind of cool because we're starting to get into some pretty weird teams that had really interesting tournaments, and I think we're going to start diverting in our grades a little bit here in just a second. And starting off, this will be an interesting one. Our team that has been relegated, Croatia, a one and done in the VNL. They won the Challenger Cup last year. Then they stunk it up at the World Championship. They stunk it up at the VNL. They didn't even have their 2 best players until week 3. And in week 3, with their tournament on the line, they went a fat 0-4. Their only wins were against Korea and I believe Thailand. Yes, they beat Thailand there in week 2. So, I mean, you get relegated. Obviously, that's bad. But the expectations for Croatia weren't that high. So all that considered, Everett, what are your thoughts?
The expectations weren't that high, but for me, the expectation when you're coming into the VNL and you're coming into a league where there's relegation and promotion, your expectation is at least to stay in, and they failed to do that.
And to
Not
put,
to mention,
put your best foot forward, you know?
put your best foot forward, absolutely. And for me too, you got 3 donged in 8 of the 12 matches. You're getting 3 donged in 66% of the times. You're out there stepping out in the court, and you lost a set to Korea.
That's
So
bad.
there's just bad all around here. For me, I'm giving I'm giving Croatia a D. I just don't think they were sure. there wasn't that high of expectations, but they were even below that. Like they were bad and not a fun team to watch in any ways. Like I definitely preferred watching Bulgaria over Croatia. And I mean, hey, one stayed in the tournament, the other one didn't.
I'm giving Croatia an F. I'm giving Croatia an
Oh,
F.
okay.
F. Their expectations were
Wow.
low, and they didn't even come close to meeting them. They didn't put their best foot forward. I mean, if Budigan and Fabrice were injured, which it sounds like they were, then I mean that kind of confuses me because Fabrice didn't play literally the entire year, sitting behind Boskovic on Zajabash's bench. But the first match of the tournament, the most important match for them against their main relegation competitor in Bulgaria, they get 3-donged 12-17-19. 12-17-19 in the most important match of the tournament. That's terrible. That is so bad. And in week 3, when they had their two best players back, they went 0-12 in sets. Didn't even win a set with their two best players back. F. Bad performance. Did not put their best foot forward. Were not worthy of a VNL spot, it turned out. Good luck in the Challenger Cup. I hope you lose to Sweden or Ukraine. Bad. F.
I mean, just give the ball to Hawk, right? And it's really too bad that Belgium them last year, because I would having Belgium in this tournament would have made it much more interesting. And
Belgium's got their own off court situations going on right now, so maybe it was a blessing in disguise that didn't have to play VNL this year.
Yeah, that is very true. All right, Rob, moving forward to a team that, admittedly, I think this is the toughest one for me.
This is a hard one.
This is a hard one. So we're seeing 2-2 week 1, 1-3 week 2, 3-1 in week number 3. Really try to make that push, but they finished 11th. Last year they finished 9th. So in that scale, they did worse than last year. However, last year they had a 5-7 record. This year they had a 6-6. They were obviously much better in that last round, and we saw them, kind of go toe to toe with some of the best teams. So for me, for the Dominican Republic, ultimately, I think I'm giving them a D minus, or sorry, not a D minus, a B minus. That was really close. I apologize. I'm giving them a B minus because even though it's funny, whenever I go into an event, I always think that the Dominican Republic is maybe a little bit more of a legitimate contender than they actually are. Because I was like going through their past results, and they have a few really good results, but never really make their medal rounds, other than in Norseca events, of course. And still are still relevant. They can always pull out a few nice wins, but never really make a push. And I would really like to see them make a push for the finals, especially with how much talent and how offensively talented they are. They are the women's version of Cuba in so many different ways. So a pretty good tournament, but still a little bit below expectations for me.
I think that's pretty fair. So the Dominican Republic had two players in the top 10 in scoring. Both Gonzalez and Brylan Martinez, both looked very, very good. And so I think comparing them to Cuba is completely fair. Those teams play similarly. They occupy kind of a similar spot in the world and in Norseca and just the play style. And I think that there is a lot of similarity there. The Dominican Republic women, way better than the Cuban men this VNL. Way better. Their consistency level was way higher. The ceiling was decently high. They picked up a couple good wins. I'm looking right now. They beat the Netherlands, which is a solid win. They beat Canada, which for them, I'm sorry, Everett, but for them, that's a very important win. And they actually beat China and Serbia in week 3, which are both enormous wins. And the peaks, I think, were higher than the valleys were low. They didn't lose to anybody that was truly bad. They actually had a hard schedule. They obviously whipped up on Korea, but they didn't get Croatia. They beat Bulgaria. They didn't get to play some of the bad teams. They didn't get Thailand. So I'm going to give Dominican Republic a B. I think just a solid B. I thought their tournament was above my expectation. I didn't think that they were. I thought that they were going to finish below 500, and they finished 6-6 and beat a couple very good teams in week 3.
Okay, fair enough. Still not that far off from each other here.
Yeah,
we're still moving forward. All right, from one team who we thought was going to make the playoffs, to a team that kind of surprised everyone, especially for the first 2 weeks, going 3-1 in week 1 and 2. Had a little bit of a struggle in 1-3, made it to the finals for the first time ever in the VNL, and eventually lost to Poland in the quarterfinals. I was actually really high on this German team throughout this tournament. I think they took great strides. I think Heinen made a massive effect on this team, and ultimately it really came in and balled out. Like when you look at the history of the team and how they've done international competitions, VNL, Euros, all of these things, this is the team that usually finishes with like a double position, right? And the VNL, they've never finished higher than 11th or 10th. So the fact that they were able to finish 8th, make it to the finals, get that experience, for me, it was absolutely massive. I really like this German team. I think they were great fun to watch. Kostner and Weitzel were 2 players that I wasn't so sure of coming in and really made an impact on me. So I'm giving Germany an A-. I think they truly exceeded expectations over here.
I'm giving Germany a solid A. I'm giving Germany a solid A. Really, really exceeded expectations. They really, really did. I mean, they started off 6-2. Like, they had an amazing start and then had a damn near impossible schedule in week 3. I mean, they beat the Dominican Republic, then lost to Poland in 5, Serbia, and then the United States. Like, that is a difficult week. And I thought they showed up decently well in the quarterfinal. They did win a set.
Not terrible.
Not terrible. I like their 3 outside hitter thing. They could use a little more firepower on the right side to rearrange that just a little bit, but they were excellent in the middle. I really like Pia Kostner at setter, and I like we have praised Vital Heinen a good amount this VNL for doing a great job with this team, and I agree. I think this was way above expectation for Germany. The consistency level, they didn't lose to anybody worse than them that I'm looking at. Like, let's see, they lost to Brazil. Fine, nothing wrong with that. They lost to China. Fine, nothing wrong with that. They took care of Croatia. They took care of the Netherlands. They took care of Bulgaria. They took care of Thailand. Like, they didn't have any bad losses. And I think that is a sign of a team that is raising their overall level of consistency to never play down to an inferior opponent. So I'm impressed by Germany. Rock solid A for me.
I do think that consistency is like the name of the game. Like, when you think of a stereotypical German, it's consistent, right? It's
yeah, totally.
They are the engineers of everything. They take care of business in that way. So yeah, once again, we're not too far off here, Rob. We're pretty much in step with each other as we're figuring these out.
Okay, this next one is an interesting one. It is Italy, and this is the Italian B team. And that's big, because I think everything around whatever expectations there might be of Italy need to be centered around the fact that it was a B team literally
Absolutely.
the entire tournament. And they did go 4-0 week 2, which is an absolute miracle. There were a bunch of 5-setters in there. Yeah, they beat Bulgaria, then beat DR in 5, beat the Netherlands in 5, and beat China in 5. Then they lost to Brazil in 5. They beat Canada in 5. Like, this Italian B team played a million 5-setters. They lost to the United States in 5. I mean, the expectations we could have had on this Italian team could not have possibly been that high, just because of who was on the roster and who was not. And they made the playoffs. They finished 6th. They made the playoffs. They got steamrolled by Turkey in the quarterfinal, and Turkey was as expected. I mean, that this is expectation stuff. I think it's slightly above expectation for me. So I'm going to go with B for B team. B is for B team, and B is for Italy. This performance, they were better than I thought, but they were never really going to blow anybody away.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they were better than I thought. I also commend them for sticking with the B team.
I agree.
I think like no other team in the VNL, men or women, like so many teams started with the B team week 1 and then went off and started bringing in their starters. There was none of that. Like, we could tell once again, Oro just all over Instagram, having a summer, loved seeing it. Like, it was the best thing. So I think that the fact that they committed to that B team and they're like, hey, win or loss, we don't care about the world rankings. We're just going to go out there and try to do our best. But they still managed to get it done. I think that's huge. So for me, B team, I get the B plus. They're going to get a little bit better than expectations. I think they weren't the worst team of like the 4 teams who lost in the quarterfinals. They weren't the worst team, and I think they did a pretty good job. especially that last week
Hmm.
4-0. See it.
I think they might have been the worst team of the four that lost in the quarterfinal, but still they got there with the B team, and I commend them for that, and I commend them for sticking with the strategy and still managing to make the playoffs. I think that is pretty big for their world ranking as well. So good for
Yeah.
them. They obviously when they bring everyone back, they're going to be a huge threat for Euros later this summer. Okay, on to the second half here. Let's talk about Japan. Japan is an interesting team. Japan has a very, very clear identity. Japan does not have a particular amount of depth. They've got a good cast of outside hitters, but past that, they really are who they are. They're amazing defensively. They're crazy fast in transition, but there is a ceiling on the teams that they can beat just on kind of play style alone. And I'm looking through the results right now. They let's see what was they did beat Turkey in 5. That
Hmm.
is pretty clearly their best win. But then they lost to Italy's B team. They lost to the Netherlands in 4. They lost to Germany. They lost to China. That wasn't really very close. I mean, they it was very much in line with expectation for me for Japan.
Yeah. Very, very much for me as well. I feel like I know what you're going to give them, and I feel like I'm going to be giving them the same
Okay.
because it was the exact same finish for them as last year. 7th place. It wasn't as an impressive run. Last year they went 8-0 before going 0-4.
Yeah, it
So
started
a
out
little,
crazy hot last year.
a little bit more, a little bit all over the place. But I mean, hey, this team finished right where we expected them to. So for me, it's a B. It's just a flat out B. They are who we thought they were, and that's about it.
I'm going with a C by the same logic. Like exactly meeting expectations, in my opinion, is a C. That's what I'm going with. They exactly met expectations, did not exceed them, did not go beneath them. They weren't overly competitive in the playoffs, but we didn't expect them to be. So C for Japan.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Perfectly average in line with expectation. I mean, we've known this next one on the list for a very long time. Korea is so bad. They're so bad.
So bad. So bad.
Awful. Second
Yeah.
year in a row going 0-12. That is a big F minus from both Everett and I think we can move on.
No. No. Bye, Korea.
Awful.
Um, moving on to Dutch Netherlands. This was a team that we knew coming in when we did our preview. We knew coming in that this team wasn't going to be the Netherlands that we expect them to be. They weren't going to be competing. They went 0-4 week 1 and just really kind of got better as it went. So I think for that, there's a lot of good things there where they really started to get better and have that younger group just continually improve. And I liked what I saw.
I kind of did too. And the Netherlands were playing with house money. I mean, they're a core team. They weren't going to get
Yeah.
relegated. They had the flexibility to give people a break, give new people a look, just kind of figure it out, throw some things at the wall and see what stuck. And by the end of the tournament, they did kind of figure it out. I mean, you can see it right there: 0-4, then 2-2, then 3-1. That is the level of improvement that you want to see when you have a team that is approaching the VNL the way that the Netherlands did. I mean, the win over Japan in week 3 was a very good one. Their only loss, that great 5-setter to Canada. I mean, they beat Thailand, they beat Croatia like they're supposed to, they beat Bulgaria like they're supposed to, they beat Poland 3-0, which is by far their best win. Uh, let's see, they didn't get to play Korea, unfortunately for them, so maybe they could have even gotten another win in there. But I think this is slightly better than expectation, maybe because I don't really think there was an expectation for this Dutch team. I don't really know what I expected out of them. Really, very little. There was no way they were going to make the playoffs, and I think maybe not so much based on record, but on level of volleyball on the eye test by the end of the tournament, I actually kind of liked what I saw. So I'm going with maybe like B minus, slightly above
Okay.
expectation.
I gave them a C plus.
Okay.
I still think that the expectations for the Netherlands in general, I see them as, you know, one of the better volleyball countries, especially on the women's side. But yeah, the C plus was just would have liked to see a little bit more from them. But ultimately, yeah, C plus.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. They weren't ever going to be a real factor in the scale of the
No.
entire tournament. Well, you know who was a real factor in the scale of the entire tournament? That would be the bronze medalist from Poland. A very, very, very impressive showing. I mean, we talked about it on the 9x9 yesterday. We were gushing about this Polish women's team's performance. Without several of their most important players, including the best setter in the world, they grabbed a medal as the first challenger team in VNL history, men's or women's, to win a medal, and they better not be a challenger team for long. 10-2, first place in the preliminary round, some amazing wins along the way, and a 5-set win over the United States for bronze. Way above expectation for Poland. I think there's really only one way we can go with this. Everett, what are your thoughts? A.
I'm giving them an A. I thought this was a coming out party for Poland. A different way than it was for Turkey, and obviously we're going to talk about that later. And I see you gave them an A yourself, but Poland really did a really good job at the World Championships at establishing themselves as like a kind of a top team. And I think that the fact that they made that immediate jump now, especially without some of their top players, including the best setter in the world, is massive for this Polish team. In my view, they had one bad match all tournament, and that was the semifinal against China. But we already talked about China played lights out in that match, and it's hard to play. It's hard to play against a team who only makes like 3 serving errors. Like that is a tough team to play against on the international stage. So I love what I'm seeing from this Polish team. I love what I saw from them throughout the tournament. I love the fact that they finished on the podium, the fact that they're the first challenger team to finish first in the round robin, first challenger team to win a medal. Love it all around. Marini did a fantastic job. Stasiak had revenge after being on the bench for most of the club season. Absolutely love it. Poland gets an A.
Shout outs to Poland. Shout outs to Lethal Barbie, our favorite nickname.
Barbie.
Yes. Yeah, Agnieszka Korneluk was brilliant. Good for her. Good for Stasiak. Good for Venerska, the backup setter. Well, she was the starter for the whole tournament. I thought she set a really good tournament. The 3 main outside hitters that played, I thought all were really good. Jurczyk in the middle was pretty good. I was really impressed. Really, and Lavarini coached a good tournament. Very, very rock solid. Good job, Poland. Rock solid A for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Poland, we stand you.
Good job, Poland. All right, moving on to Serbia. This is an interesting one. So Serbia, the defending VNL bronze medalist and the defending world champions, missed the playoffs. And so they have a new coach. They have Giovanni Guidetti at the helm now instead of Santarelli. They did not have Tijana Bošković until week 3. However, they went 0-4 in week 1. Even with a new coach, even without your best player, all of these players went to VNL last year and won bronze without Tijana Bošković. So changing only the coach shouldn't make you that much worse. And they went 0-4 week 1. They had a tough schedule, though. 5-set loss to the United States, 4-set loss to Turkey, 3-set loss to Poland, and then, of course, the 5-set loss to Canada, which is incredible for the Maple Volleys. Then they figured it out a little bit. They beat Japan. They lost to Brazil. They beat Thailand in 5 in overtime. That was a real head scratcher. They dropped a set to Croatia. Then they beat China. They beat Germany. And with Bošković, they tried to rescue their tournament. They ended up losing to the Dominican Republic in 5, which basically ended their playoff chances. So Serbia missing the playoffs. I don't care who your coach is. I don't care what players you brought. There's no universe in which Serbia should miss the playoffs. I'll certainly start there. But as for like comparing them to expectation, Everett, what do you think about this Serbian team?
Well, I mean, I think the expectations were set so high last year when with the same roster without Bošković, they were able to make a run all the way to that bronze medal match. And I mean, sure, in the round robin, they didn't do great. I think what was it, 7th overall in the round robin, and just barely squeaked into that final round last year.
Yeah, 7th.
Yeah. So, like they upset the USA in the quarterfinals, and, almost Serbia last year was like this year's China and in some ways.
Kind of.
But like that expectation was so high. And I think this kind of goes back to our show yesterday, where it just kind of really magnifies the fact of how good of a job Santarelli does with your team and kind of getting every inch of performance and every inch of quality out of your team. So for me, I think this was a disappointment all around for Serbia, finishing as low as they did. So I'm giving them a C-. Like, I really expect more. You're the defending You're the defending world champions, and even like last year, they didn't go to Boskovic at all, and they called upon her at the end, and they still couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, and I think a comment in the chat, all their best players were there, but once Boskovic got there in the third week, all they did was set Boskovic the ball. That is a bad play style choice. That is bad coaching. That is bad game management. That is not the way that you should run that team. We've obviously seen that the rest of Serbia can perform at the highest level, and in this tournament, they did not. I'm giving Serbia a D-. I thought that they were very, very bad, very disappointing. When you're the reigning world champions and you miss the playoffs in VNL, I don't care who your players were. And with the same crew as last year to podium and then miss the playoffs and only having changed coach, bad performance, extremely disappointing. A ton of questions to answer heading into the rest of the summer. I was not impressed. The eye test, they look bad. They look bad. I mean, our friend Peter says they played really, really, really bad overall, except for a couple sets where they flashed the Serbia that we're used to. Not a good showing based on high expectations. D-, and I honestly considered giving them an F. I thought about it.
Wow.
Thought about it.
Wow. Even like the reality is like they did pretty decent in weeks 2 and 3, but
not good enough.
Okay. Can we get a daddy picture instead of a Korean flag?
Actually, you know what? It's
not a no, because no. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do it because there's no way we can have a daddy image beside the F-.
Thank you. You're right.
Right. There's no way we can slander daddy in that way. If we want to make another like I think if we want to put daddy at the bottom and just give him an A+, that's like, because otherwise.
There he is.
Yeah, exactly. There's daddy. He's like God watching over all of our picks.
There's daddy. Daddy obviously gets an A+. So there he is. Good point. I'm glad that we got him into the show somehow. All right.
We got him into the show, but we didn't slander him.
Never. We cannot put daddy next to an A, next to an F-, which Korea obviously deserves. Speaking of teams that are bad, we got to talk about Thailand. I think the only thing I need to say about Thailand is that they hosted week 3 and they went 0-12 in sets at home. That is so bad.
It's sad to see, really. It's sad to see. I've had so much fun over the past few VNLs watching this Thai team. I love the energy that they play with usually. I love the style of play that they play with usually. And they were just bad here. They really were. It makes me sad that Canada lost them. It really did. But hey, it kind of is what it is. This Thai team was way below expectations for me, way below. And that's why I've given them a D-. I've gone to the bottom. F wasn't, there's only one team that deserves an F in all of this, but Thailand, a D- because that was really bad for them to watch, especially going 0-12 in sets at home. Like, man, way to let, like, even Canada men aren't even that bad.
F.
Holy
F. 0-12 in sets at home. F. Unless you're Korea, and Korea's awful. Even Korea won sets at home, for God's sake. At least I think they did. They might have won 1 or 2 sets at home. Yeah, they did. They took a set from China, and they took a set from Bulgaria at home. Korea did. Thailand, you are worse than Korea at hosting and playing at home. Shame on you. F. Have a better attitude about losing too. I know I already complained about this. I hate that they're just all smiles, all happy, all great sportsmanship. No, you got 12 donged at home. F. Be more competitive.
I think that's just a cultural thing. I think that's something that
it's a cultural thing for me too.
You're red-blooded American, over there. They can't really understand. I mean, for me, they made the playoffs last year, right? They were the 8th place team. They made the finals. To go from that to being one of the worst teams we saw over the course of this VNL is really tough to see. Like, it's a downfall for this program, and I'd really like to see them bounce back, but I don't know if they will. I don't know if they have any young guns coming up the pipeline. We're going to need some of our Thai fans to fill us in there.
Figure it out. F. Be better next year. Okay, only 2 teams left, and they're 2 very interesting ones. The first is our champions. We got to talk about Turkey. Again, congratulations. They were by far the best team at the final. They won their first major championship in volleyball history. Also, according to the Discord, their first country national team sport title ever in the history of Turkish sports, which is a very big deal. So, and probably the first of many, because this team looks unbelievable. Daniele Santarelli is a mastermind. Melissa Vargas is a monster. And the rest of the crew played extremely, extremely well around her. We talked about it yesterday. Go watch yesterday's 9x9 for our full kind of recap of the final. But Everett, basically how high of a grade do you want to give this Turkish team? Do they get the coveted A+? I'm not sure if I'm willing to give out anybody an A+, but if there's one team that deserves it, it might be Turkey.
It might be Turkey, and I think one player that you failed to mention there is Ebrar Karakurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there was a massive question mark around her. Will she play? Will she not play? Is she going to be in the opposite? She's going to be on the left side. And in that finals, she really she blew everyone out of the water. She played on the left side. She was being a utility role player, something we haven't really seen from her, and I absolutely love that from her. But I don't think, to me, to get the A+, you need to have had a fantastic round robin and won it all, right? And they had a very good round robin. Don't get me wrong. They kind of worked through some things. They were figuring themselves out as a team. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they won it all. They got the job done. So that for me, it's an A. It's not quite an A+. They would have need to kind of at least run, maybe not run the table, but had they finished first and won, that's when you start getting into that A+ territory. And for me, it's just an A, only an A for Turkey at this time.
I agree. I'm also giving them an A. I'm not giving the A+ to anybody this tournament. I agree with you. If you like, the A+ is almost impossible to obtain unless you I think if you take first in the preliminary round and then win the tournament, I think that's an A+. But not quite an A+. But I mean, the level that they played at in the final was absolutely tremendous. If we were looking at the finals alone, that was an A+. Just a little bit more, maybe a tiny bit more in the preliminary round. But again, amazing tournament for Turkey.
They really we've been waiting for them to jump up into that elite category, and I think they did so emphatically. Not just getting the podium, but by getting on the way they did, winning it all, just dominating throughout the finals. Love to see it. I'm really excited for Turkish volleyball over the next little bit.
Me too. I'm starting to be very, very scared of Turkish volleyball and of Turkish volleyball fans on the internet. They're going to get a lot of ammunition to talk trash to people in the very near future.
What happens? You know what I was thinking about yesterday, Rob, is that what happens when Russia gets brought back into the fold? Because you're bringing in another elite team into this women's field that is already so stacked and so skilled. Oh, it gets spicy.
Are they elite? I'm not convinced that Russia will be among those elite teams.
Russia is all. I'm sorry, they have one of the best players in the world.
Fedorov-Seva is brilliant. Yep.
Fedorov-Seva, right? So and it's Russian volleyball. They are up there with the Italys and the Brazils. They have one of the best volleyball cultures. They have one of the best. Just because they're not there, Russia will be there once they come back.
Well, I think they're a total wild card, but when they do come back, I don't think they're a medal contender yet. I think they'll take them a couple of years to get back to that point, but that's another conversation. Speaking of conversations, this is the one I've been looking forward to the most, and it's been one of the most complicated teams to grade. Last but not least is the United States.
Let's get into it, because this one is interesting. Because this, to me, you have to look at in two sides. There's the round robin, where they were fantastic, one of the best teams in the tournament, and then there is the finals, where they were painfully average. And at this point, with how the USA has done, and the way that this is becoming a common theme for them, where they go out round robin and absolutely dominate, kind of a la Japan, and then crumble in the finals. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, that's a big problem. The finals performance is the biggest problem here, and I think if we're gonna keep consistent with our grading and go based on expectations, the expectation for this American team is to perform in the finals, in the playoffs, and they did not do that. So However, week 1 of the preliminary round, we had our B team there. We went 4-0, beat Serbia,
Okay.
Italy, and Turkey. Like that is way above expectation. But that's not what I as an American fan care about. That's not what any American fan should care about is winning preliminary round matches. I mean, obviously we were good in the preliminary round. We lost to Japan in 5 with the B team in week 2. We lost to China in 5 in week 3, and those were our only losses in the whole preliminary round. Like that is a great, like 10-2, excellent, at or above expectations there for sure. But once we got to the playoffs, even the Japan match in the quarterfinal, like I was talking about on yesterday's show, I just didn't see it. I was not impressed by the level. I was not impressed by how we handled the matchup. And I just don't like the general approach to the USA women's volleyball program right now. We have too many bodies, too much uncertainty in roles. We have no idea who our starting lineup is. We do not have a killer instinct. We don't have a player with a killer instinct. We don't have that as a team. We have really kind of no idea what we're doing at a lot of positions, especially outside hitter. And to not medal at home and to lay 2 eggs and to make the number of errors and just play the poor level of volleyball that I thought the United States played in the final is extremely disappointing and is way below expectations. So I don't think I can give this team anything above a C. I don't think I can give them anything above a C, and I think C even might be generous. I'm going with C minus. I'm going with C minus for the American women, and I mean, great, good job. You had a great preliminary round. You finished 10-2. That's expected of the United States women's volleyball program. But performing in the playoffs is what we need to start getting better at. This was a bad showing in at home in Texas for us. C minus. I don't feel good about giving anything higher than that.
Real quick before I give my grade here, Rob, the first team that came out here was Brazil, right? And we gave them a B. We gave them a B minus. They lost 1 round earlier than the USA, and traditionally Brazil does have the same amount of expectations as the USA. So what's the difference for you between a Brazil team who you gave a B minus and a American team who you gave a C minus to? I don't disagree with you, by the way.
Okay.
I just want to kind of, because that was my biggest questioning, is that I was bouncing around these 2 grades for this American team because I wanted to give them a C minus because of their performance. Like when you're Team USA, you're expected to make the finals, right? That's absolutely expected. And I mean, hey, you were hosting, so everyone knew you were going to be there. How do you perform at home in front of your own fans? How do you perform in gut check time? And now we've seen time and time again this team crumble. But when I looked at Brazil, this is also a team that we expect to be in the finals. They were in the World Championship finals less than a year ago, and they went out and lost had a worse round robin and lost in the final. So what's the difference? What's your differentiating factors between Brazil and USA here?
Well, there's not much. I mean, when you put it that way, they are pretty similar. Their expectations should be similar. They were both missing important players. Like the United States was missing Jordan Poulter. Brazil was missing Ana Cristina. But Brazil, throughout the preliminary round, I didn't see Brazil as a contender to get past. I think a medal for Brazil would have been above expectation based on the way that they played in the preliminary round. Medal was the baseline for this United States team, the way that they played in the preliminary round and the situations with playing at home and hosting the final. And I mean, we were missing Jordan Poulter, but we were missing Jordan Poulter the entire tournament. We had a whole tournament to figure that out and to get Micah Hancock all the starting setter reps, which we did. And we saw her not play particularly well in the semis and the bronze medal match. Brazil lost Ana Cristina in the middle of the tournament, so I give them a little bit more of a handicap for that.
A little bit more grace,
yeah, a little bit more grace in the grade. And even though both teams flopped kind of similarly once they got to the playoffs, Brazil's matchup was way harder. Like, there's a great chance that if we had played China in the round of 8, we would have also lost to them. I actually probably think that we would have. So those are the only couple differences. That is a very good question, that Brazil and the U.S. are more similar than I kind of thought that they were. But maybe it's just my own personal feeling of disappointment that makes me give the U.S. a C minus. So with that comparison in mind, where are you going to land on this?
Oh, I'm still landing on C- as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because for me, there's still a sense of good there with Brazil. Like, you know what they bring to the table, you know what style they're going to play. They're just missing some of the personnel. Whereas I think the U.S. needs to look at themselves truly and start looking at this like, are we playing the right style of volleyball? Like uh, I don't know, like especially like we have people talking about chat about how in that out of system podcast recently with Josh. I can't remember the last time we met him in Austin actually.
Josh Walker.
Yeah, Josh Walker, the
Yeah.
new associate coach for Baylor, about how the NCAA system kind of hinders the national team in some ways. Yes, with the sub rule, so that your outsides aren't playing all 6 rotations, but also middles not serving and things like that. I think that there's a larger epidemic maybe within the American system of just having that lack of identity, and then because no one's there to step up. With Brazil, you have that excuse of being like, hey, once Ana Cristina comes back, once we find someone to kind of sit in on the right, because Kissy isn't all that great. Who did they have last year? Wasn't it like Lorena or something?
It was Rosa Maria at the World Championship, and she was really good.
Yeah,
and she's the one that I like the most out of Brazil's 3. Like, they have her, Kissy, and Lorena, and I don't like either Kissy or Lorena. I don't think either of them are the answer.
Also, I love how the fact that you added Daddy Stankovic like in the background like that. That's fantastic.
Thanks.
So yeah, I think that there's way more question marks on the American side of things than there is on the Brazilian side of things, and they like the last time I believed in this team truly fully was the Tokyo Olympics, because since then they've just disappointed me time and time again with the playoffs. And this is a team I believe in. This is a team I love to watch. This is a team that, heading into this final, you're talking about maybe possibly the American women and men both winning VNL. And that's not happening. Not even close.
No, that definitely did not happen on the women's side. I just think the disappointment, the disappointment and the expectation of medaling after what we had seen throughout the tournament leading up to the finals. That's, I think, what separates Brazil and the U.S. for me. And I agree with you. I think there are less clear answers for the U.S. than there are for Brazil. I think that's a very good assessment.
Yeah, so that's why they get that. But I literally did flip flop between A, B- and C-, because you got there, but you just didn't dance when you got there.
That's right. Okay, those are our grades. So I gave out what? I gave out 2 Fs and an F-. You reserved the F category only for Korea, and they certainly deserve it. Let's see. You gave out 2 As, 2 A-. I gave out just straight up 4 As. And then let's see. I gave out 5 in the B group. You gave out 5 in the B group. You gave out 3 in the C group, as did I. I only have 1 in the D group. You have 2. No, you have 3 in the D group. You've got some more pluses and minuses than I do also.
Yeah, I wanted to be, like Dave Portnoy says, you don't just give a round score, that's a rookie score. So I had to kind of I had to kind of work around with that. So I was utilizing the entire gamma of the grades, in my opinion. That's what I was going for.
Respect. So that was fun. That was a fun exercise. We're definitely going to do this next week for the men after the men's finals are over. But I think that's it. That is under the watchful eye of Daddy Stankovic. We have now correctly graded all 16 women's VNL teams. That puts a bow on that tournament. And we will look forward to continental championships and Olympic qualifiers for the women later this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure if you agree with our picks, let us know in the comments below. If you don't agree, let us know why. Love to hear it. And there's no Find Daddy in this episode because he's right there front and center. If you can't find him, then you're absolutely blind. But make sure you go check out that volleyball.store for all of your merch needs. And make sure you give this video a like. We've only got 30 likes on this, so we've had quite a few of y'all tune in. We appreciate you all tuning in. We will be back on Monday.
Yep, we'll be back
for
with the 9x9 on Monday, and then another one of these shows, another report card show for the men, probably next Tuesday or sometime next week as well. So a lot more
Yep.
coming. Join the Volleyball Source Discord. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the men's game starting tomorrow.
Peace.